15. If we can have the roll call, please.
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Rud Browne.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Pete Kremen.
Here.
Ken Mann.
Here.
Satpal Sidhu.
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here. If people will stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple announcements, just as I do every meeting, and remind myself, if you have your cell phone, if you want to turn it to vibrate or silent, that will keep the silly noises down a little bit. Also, if you're handing out papers during our open session this evening, it's great if our clerk gets a copy too for the record. We just came out of a committee of the whole meeting, executive session, where we had a discussion with public works staff regarding a potential property acquisition for the flood control zone district, with our flood control zone district hats on, and I think there's a motion regarding that.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would move that we authorize the executive to execute an option agreement to purchase property as discussed in executive session.
All right, we have that motion in front of us, and it's been seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Browne out of the room. We also had a discussion outside of executive session just regarding work assignment proposals for our council legislative analyst. First order of business this evening is kind of a bittersweet thing. Tonight is Mr. Kremen's last meeting on the county council. He's finally retiring, or at least temporarily. He may be back. You never know. And the council put together a little plaque. I don't know if people realize, but Pete Kremen has been representing local government here longer than probably some people in the audience have been alive. 30 plus years, I think, if you count his time
31.
representing the 42nd district, the council executive. So the council put together a little plaque, and I'm just going to read it real quick. We thank you for your service and commitment to improving the health, safety, and welfare of our community during the 11 years you represented the 42nd Legislative District in the House of Representatives, the 16 years you served as our Whatcom County Executive, and finally, these last 4 years serving with us as a member of the Whatcom County Council. Your dedication to our community is an inspiration and has been a privilege and an honor to serve with you, and signed by all of your fellow council members. And we certainly want to hear your melodious voice. Have something to say.
Well, you know, this is a really bittersweet event for me. You know, I'm at the stage of my life where I've been so fortunate. I feel like Lou Gehrig because I've been so blessed. I came to this community in 1974, and in 1984 I was, and I really mean ultra fortunate to win by 10 votes after a recount and a court battle to get elected to represent the people of this community in the legislature. And then in 1995, this community gave me the honor of being the CEO of county government. And for 16 years, the people gave me the opportunity to do that, the privilege, the honor. And it's been my whole life. This is my 31st year, and it's been my whole life. And I'm ashamed to say that because I've spent more time with my constituents than I have with my wife. But the time's come for me to spend a little more focus and attention on my wife, and I just want to convey to this community that I am the luckiest guy in the world to have had the honor of for almost a third of a century now, whether it's in the legislature or it's the executive or here on the council. And I mean, how many people get this opportunity? And it's meant so much to me. I've gotten so much more out of it than like I say, I feel so fortunate, and I do feel melancholy about this. Most people when they retire, they're looking forward to it, and they count the days down. I'm dreading this moment because it's a phase in my life that I've really enjoyed. This has not been drudgery. It's not. I've loved this opportunity that the people of this community have given me for so long, and it's all coming to an end. And I just want to convey to all of you here tonight and the people of this community that I will always cherish what this community has entrusted me to do for so long. I hope I've done a good job. I feel good about what I've been able to accomplish. And I'm as I say, I'm very melancholy about this, but I want to say it has been a joy. I didn't know how it was going to be to transition after being in the House of Representatives and then as a county executive and then here as a member of the county council. I didn't know how I was going to be able to make that transition to be one of 7. But it has really been a very enjoyable time. It's been rewarding for me, a lot more than I thought it would be. Having the camaraderie, the collegiality, and being able to do a lot of good things here as a county council member. And the staff, I had great staff, and we still have great staff in the executive's office. And I take pride in helping to assemble some of that staff. But the staff that we have here on the council, I mean, I always knew they were good, but I didn't know how good until I actually became a council member. So, everyone, every single person in our county council office has done such a great job. And the other thing that I want to say, well, not only one thing, but and I don't know whether you all have been able to ascertain this yet or come to the conclusion that, the staff here, whether it's the department heads or the frontline people, I mean, all of them, I mean, almost without exception, people of this community, I don't think really fully appreciate how good and how dedicated the employees of Whatcom County really are. When you're in the county council, you don't have the opportunities. Of course, we're not supposed to have as much interaction with the staff as the executive. But I can tell you, my observation has been that for the most part, the staff in Whatcom County, I don't care which department you're talking about or which office, they're really stellar. They care about what they do, and they do a good job. And a lot of them get there's this perception that government doesn't do a good job. Well, I gotta tell you, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm pretty finicky. I have high standards. And Whatcom County, and I've seen peer counties, and I've been in the National Association of Counties on their board, and I've been on the State Association board, and I tell you, our employees here are at the very top and it's not just me saying this. We're seen and regarded by our peers and our colleagues throughout the state as having excellent staff here. So we have an excellent operation. Whether it's the executive's office, the sheriff's office, the auditor, all of them, Public Works, Parks Department, all of them. They're so good, and they deserve a lot of credit. The executive gets credit, we get credit, but they're the ones that do the heavy lifting. And I just want to convey that before I ride off into the sunset. But I just want to again thank all of you, my fellow council colleagues and the executive and his staff, and I see our auditor, who I was fortunate enough to talk into coming into the executive's office. I can't remember how many years ago. It was I think it was my first or second year, so it had to be like 1996 or 97, one of the two, which is a long time ago. And now you're a stellar leader of in fact, you've led the auditors of Washington State, and you're doing an excellent job. All of you guys are just, I'm just so blessed and thankful that you give me this plaque, and it has been a joy, and it's been something that I will cherish for the rest of my days. And thank you for being good colleagues, and thank you for doing such a great job for Whatcom County.
All right, join me in thanking Mr. Kremen again.
One other thing, real quick. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize and express my deep appreciation and love for my wife, Fidela. Because it is really, and probably our county executive can tell you, the spouse of any elected official, but especially someone who's in the hot seat. The spouse actually has a tougher road to hoe than the actual office holder. And I fully believe that. That's not a token gesture. It is more difficult on the spouse, whether they're female or male. It is tougher. And I just want to express publicly my wife, who, we're going to have our 44th anniversary here in a couple of months, and she's put up with a lot of stressful situations and a public scrutiny and public ridicule, and it has been, I couldn't have done it without her, and she deserves a lot of credit, and I just want to express my deep appreciation and my love for my lovely wife, who I met in 1968 and have been together with her ever since then, married for almost 44 years. But I did want to let everyone know that Fidela Kremen is a saint and a gem.
All right. Ms. Brenner.
I wanted to say, I loved when the part you talked about how you were able to adjust to your different roles. I just have, Pete and I, when Pete was executive, we didn't get along. It was my fault, I'm sure, but we didn't get along all that well. He so quickly, when he got on the council, figured out council, the position, what we do, and I don't know if anybody's going to miss you more than me now, because I really have appreciated working with you. I mean, I just can't believe how our relationship changed so much and evolved. I'll say evolved. That sounds better. But, oh, God, don't. I'm really going to miss you. I did not want him to retire.
All right. Mr. Mr. Buchanan.
Yeah, Pete, it's been such a pleasure just to be your office mate this last 2 years. But our time goes back a long ways. And Pete was always the guy that would never say no, and he's emceed so many shows that I and my wife were involved in putting on year after year after year, probably since 2000. And he would never say no. He would show up. He had a great positive attitude, and of course, knocked it out of the park as usual. So I'm just very thankful that I got to spend as much time with you as I did.
Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just sort of mention a couple of things that maybe folks wouldn't necessarily know about Pete from the outside, but just three things that as I've been thinking about Pete's retirement and what it's meant to me to be around him, one accomplishment that I know I've always admired about him is his talent and his skill at hiring people. So many of the good people, excellent people that we have working in this county that he was discussing are his hires. And he really had a knack for hiring really, really good people. So thank you for that legacy. And another thing you might not know about Pete is he is a very wise and level-headed person. When things are kind of getting emotional or crescendoing in one way or another on a topic, Pete just really, his experience and his wisdom and his guidance, and I am, of all the things I will miss about Pete, that is the most important, I think, to me. When there's a bit of a kerfuffle going on, and it's just the energy's off, people aren't getting along, no one's really communicating properly, Pete can really dial us back in and help us look at the problem and stay calm and focused. And that's really important. And the last thing you might not know about Pete is he is extremely funny and extremely good company when you're just hanging out, socializing, backstage or at an event. So if you hadn't had the opportunity to know Pete in that way, just as a friend and as someone to spend time with, he is a great guy. He really is, and I am going to miss him. So thank you for all your service, Pete.
Mr. Browne.
So I probably know you less than most of the others in this room, but I think I've known you for about 15 years. And one of the things that I've really appreciated is I'd expressed an interest in getting involved civically, and you were always very encouraging of that. And always, I think stood as an example of someone who really loved what he did and found a passion in it. And I appreciate both the enthusiasm you conveyed in your job, but the enthusiasm you conveyed for others to do something similar. So I thank you very much for that and wish you all the best.
All right. Mr. Sidhu.
I met Pete. He used to come to the DARE graduations at Irene Ryder, and my kids were probably grade 5 or 4. He was a state representative. That's when I met him first, and many other occasions. And my kids still have this certificate he used to give, State Representative Pete Kremen, District, 42nd District. So, I mean, and I have lived here 30 years, and I watched Pete doing all kinds of different things in the community. And a couple of things I want to bring it out is one is right after 9/11, and there was a Sikh community, and he was the person. We met with him, and it's just like giving a comforting feeling. And then the second thing was that when we did this 100-year anniversary of 1907 event, and I was a member of a Human Rights Task Force, and we came and visited him and gave him this proposal or idea that we would like to remember that. It was very encouraging. It was so comforting to the whole community. He came to the temple. He worked with the whole community and the task force for over a few months, and then he came up with the idea of declaring a day of healing and reconciliation, we had no idea how to memorize or commemorate something like that. It sometimes is difficult conversation. Like Mr. Mann said, that he was very comfortable with it. He learned all this, and he said, yes, we should commemorate that. And that is something not only me, the whole Sikh community in this county will never forget, that his act of kindness and his act of making the whole community feel part of a larger community. And I know that we're going to give him a few months to relax, but we would like him to use his expertise and knowledge for the benefit of the community in future years also. So Pete, expect something. Thank you.
That means a great deal to me. That I forgot about that very special event, and I look back in retrospect, and I know my mother, who was a civil rights activist, when I was just a little child. I used to march in the freedom marches down in Los Angeles, where I grew up as a small kid. And my mom, who passed away probably about 1999, and she would have been very proud of me to carry on her efforts. That was a very important thing in her life, and she instilled that in me. And it means a great deal to me to be able to look back at that event and what a meaningful event that was. And now I feel like John Boehner here.
John Boehner's got nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have the tan, sorry. Executive Laos.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to give you the last word, of course, as the chair of the council. But Councilmember Kremen, I'd just like to thank you for your last 4 years of service as a council member. The administration appreciates the work that you've done on the council. And now I'm going to talk to you as Pete, as my friend. Pete, thank you so much. I mean, what you have done for Whatcom County is going to, it's a lasting legacy that we're going to be able to look at years, decades, and probably centuries from now as it relates to your commitment to the parks that we have in our community, the amount of work and effort that you put in is just to make Whatcom County a better place from when you started to where it is now. So I really appreciate that. You left the executive's office in great shape when I took it over 4 years ago, and I do appreciate that. You walked us through a recession and put us onto a good financial start coming out of it. And all of those things are a testament to the good work that you've done. So thank you for that, and God bless as you move into the next phase of your life with you and Fidela.
All right. And just the last word, and I've already said, and everybody else has said what I was thinking. The one thing I think people haven't heard about Pete Kremen that I'll just, on a lighthearted note, end with is people probably don't know what a tightwad is. When you sit in this chair and you play with the lights, he's always over here trying to get you to set the lights because he doesn't want you wasting energy, because he's also an extreme conservationist in many ways and is trying to save money. And when I first started, that I found that kind of annoying because I'm a tax and spend liberal, and it drove me nuts. But the reality is, and I've come to really appreciate this on my 10 years of the council, when the economy went into the toilet in 2008 and other councils were laying people off right and left, this county weathered that storm much better because of his tight-waddedness, which I think is a new word. And he had squirreled away money in all kinds of different funds, and it floated this county through a really dark period where other counties took a really significant hit. And that's part of the vision that, part of the, what Executive Laos was talking about, that I think a lot of people don't really realize that Mr. Kremen helped this county weather a serious problem in ways that other counties weren't as successful, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I wouldn't say tightwad, I would say value conscious.
You can can tell he's still spinning from his radio. All right, we're going to move on, but we are going to move into our open session in just a minute, so if anybody else wants to thank Mr. Kremen, you certainly have a chance. First, we have 11 sets of minutes to approve, and I need to read through all 11 of them, so bear with me. The 11 we're going to approve is the regular County Council meeting for July 21st, the Surface Water Work Session for July 28th, the Special Committee of the Whole for August 4th, the regular County Council meeting for August 4th, the Special Council meeting for August 28th, the Special Committee of the Whole for August 28th, the Committee of the Whole for September 15th, the regular County Council meeting for September 15th, the Committee of the Whole for September 29th, the Committee of the Whole for October 13th, and the regular County Council meeting for October 13th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those pass unanimously. Now we're going to move into our open public session, and this is where people from the public can come and talk to us about whatever you wish. Everybody will get 3 minutes. If your name's more complicated than Smith or Jones, if you can spell it for us, that helps us get it right in the record. And you'll kind of get a warning when you get down to about 30 seconds that your time is about up. And we can use both microphones. And start us off, Mr. Petrie.
Hello, my name is Clayton Petrie. I live in Bellingham, and I'm here with Cal Leenstra tonight. But first, I did want to say that there's 2 people that have been a part of my entire life in county government, and that's Pete and Barbara. And it really does feel strange that Pete's not going to be serving in some function. My entire life. So I wanted to talk to you briefly. I've already spoken with all of you that responded to me previously, but a couple meetings ago I came to speak to you about the challenge that's at the Growth Management Hearings Board regarding the U Street UGA and some other issues. And I mentioned that it would be helpful if you directed staff to settle the appeal rather than having to go to the hearings board. I'd like to reiterate that we want to avoid a hearings board challenge and believe it's in the county's best interest to do so as well. That's why we brought forward the proposal you have. Recall, we proposed that the county include 82 acres, that's 1/8 of a square mile, of the U Street UGA Reserve in the Bellingham urban growth area. We have received informal but very positive feedback from both Bellingham and Whatcom County decision makers regarding the proposal. Absent settlement, our only option is to move forward with the legal challenge. Settlement could be accomplished easily and apparently without undue angst by either the county or city decision makers. The cost and immense financial risk on both sides of a challenge would be avoided as well. If you believe settlement discussions could be productive and beneficial to Whatcom County and the city of Bellingham, we ask that you communicate that to your staff. We appreciate your consideration of our request, and we did meet with planning staff this week, and I think basically they're looking for a go-ahead on something like this before they spend a bunch of time on it. So Cal's here to answer any questions you might have for him, and I also put the schedule on there. You can see, I don't believe you meet until January 16th is your next meeting, which is more of a organizational and 12th? Okay, well, not till the 12th. And so we have some things due soon after that. So if you have any questions for Cal, that's why he's here, or if I haven't had the chance to speak with you about this, please feel free to contact Cal or I. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Helm.
Good evening. My name is Larry Helm. I'm a small farmer out on Squalicum Valley, and I'm here representing myself tonight. I just wanted to share with you some stuff that's been bothering me. I was at a Farm Bureau meeting 2 weeks ago, and if you remember, there was heavy rain, and three of the dairy guys had to leave. They got a call that their Holsteins were standing in 9 inches of water in Everson, so they left. And so a week went by, and I called them. I was kind of concerned, and it turns out that the levee in Everson is designed to overflow, But the problem is, over the years, the levee bottom has been building from silting. And now some of the parts of the levee bottom are higher than the land on the other side of the levee, so the channel is gone. So now when the design to overflow happens, it's a lot worse than it normally is. And I checked out with some of the staff in Public Works, and it looks like we haven't done any dredging on the levee since 1995. That's a long time, and a lot of silt is accumulating. So I just want you to know, when you're going to do the budget and you're talking about that flood money, there's a lot of need for flood work, both in levee stabilization and in channel stabilization that we're not getting accomplished. And people are discussing the security of farming. You know, a lot of the land that's along the river is the most productive land. So if it goes and you start to pencil out your business plan for your dairy, some of these aren't going to pencil out without that river bottom. So you're not only getting rid of the flooded area around the river, you're getting rid of the whole dairy because of the business plan. So that's one issue. The other issue is your PIC people are doing a great job. They're going out, pollution, I think it was a pollution index control, is that the name of the program? Where you're going out and testing water quality. There's been a couple of occasions, I know for a fact, where people with 2 sheep on 2 acres, and one guy had 1 llama and one, I think it was a pig on 1 acre. Those animals are worth, say, $100 or less, and they're being forced into doing a $1,500 farm plan. Well, we do cost share, but they still have to pay $500 to keep their $100 worth of animals. They're not doing it. They're getting rid of their animals. And then the neighbors see that, and they don't get any animals. And so what you're doing is you're starting to cut into the 4-H and FFA programs, because the kids for those programs don't, the majority of them don't come from the large farms. They come from these small 20-acre, 10-acre, 5-acre, what I call hobby farms. So if we're going to protect 100,000 acres of productive farmland, we're going to have to think about compromise. Now, I know the environmental community very well doesn't want to dredge the river because of fish habitat, but we're going to have to start compromising if we're going to keep that 100,000 acres productive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Kaufman, 1620 Huntley Road, Bellingham. Thank you, Council. I wanted to speak tonight. In 1989, I became an activist a bit around a neighborhood committee called NOPE, Neighbors Opposing Power Encroachment, and we were successful in passing the Citizens Initiative at that time. And in 1990, when the comp plan was first introduced, I was active in the utility chapter 5 of that comp plan. In 2000, the GSX project, a gas line going to Nanaimo, was taking place. SE2 and Sumas was being developed, and the gas pipeline rupture happened on Whatcom Creek. And this last summer, I raised my hand and I went to the Planning Commission as they were reviewing the chapters in the comprehensive plan. And it became apparent to a lot of the members of the comp plan, or the Planning Commission, and the people that were there, that the utility chapter is a whole different kind of bailiwick to a degree than a lot of the comprehensive plan of water and environment and growth. The utility chapter is where you get to deal with the big boys. And one of the members raised their hand and said, is this like where we get to take on Comcast, one of the most hated corporations, in his words, in the country? I said, well, yeah, it kind of is. And we slightly talked about the franchise agreement. And Comcast, as I understand it, is 3 years past their franchise agreement time. And I think a franchise agreement lasts for 5 years. So they've been operating for 8 years, which in the telecommunications utility industry, to me, is huge. And one of the things I am sick and tired of hearing as an American is that we lead in spending more money and getting less for our value than almost any industrialized country in the world. And there's no reason for this. And so I think we should take on the franchise agreement for Comcast. Why aren't we doing this? And let's see, was there anything else on this?
30 seconds, please.
Yes. So, and the GSX gas pipeline, it seems to me that a little article I read this summer that a new plan was introduced and they blew off the dust off the GSX proposal and basically said, here it is, it's done. And there's been no other word about this in the community, and I've heard nothing about it, and was wondering if there was any interest in this or if it's a done deal or where that is in the community.
Time.
But I wanted to raise my hand and say, as a citizen, I would like to be active in anything that the council may need me to help with in regard to utility issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Daniel Probst, Bellingham, Washington. And I wanted to bring you some of the photos from the Raptor Ridge Trail build that we did in 2011 that show the amount of rock work, and it was quite an enormous effort actually to do that. It was the hardest project I've ever been involved with. It took me a year between the time we got the permit and by the time we finished. We had over 4,000 hours of volunteer labor. I personally put hundreds of hours into that trail and was there the very last day, and I still go up and clean the ditches out on the trail. That's where I kind of cut my teeth in trail building. And since then, we had another project in the Chuck Nuts that we did, and then this summer I spent all summer out up on the Ridley Creek Trail. As you guys know, reopening a trail has been closed for 10 years. And there's been over 100 people that went up there this summer for the first time in 10 years. And so we've been working with the Forest Service on that. And so I just wanted to address some of the issues that the parks brought up today about experience. And Chris wasn't actually at the Parks Department at that time. So he wasn't there to see the amount of work that went into this. Because when you build a trail right, a couple of years after you finish that trail, it just looks like part of the landscape. And underneath of that trail is a massive amount of rock work. And that's why it holds up to horse use as well. And so I just wanted to share that we do have the experience to do this. Backcountry Horsemen have funded the project. We're asking for 300 feet from the county. And I talked to the Larrabee State Park today, and I found out that they are still 100% on board with this. So I don't know what happened today when the parks came and said that Larrabee State Park no longer supports this. And they'll be writing a letter of support this next week. So I just wanted to bring that up because I'm not sure where that came from. That was a surprise to me as well. And this is just a small project. We've been working on the Ridley Creek Trail, and we have a resolution in now, a draft resolution, to start on a trail project that's going to go
30
from
seconds,
here to Mount
please.
Baker. And this is going to be a much bigger project. And we actually just got a $5,000 donation last week for the trail, and that brings us up to about $7,700 that it's been donated for the trail to Baker. So we do have the experience to do this. I would ask you to reconsider and help support the Raptor Ridge Trail project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else during our open session? Come on down front.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Barton. I live on Cherrywood in Bellingham, and thank you for your time tonight. I've got a couple things. Pete, you've done a great job. Thank you for your service. We all love you. So the other thing is that I've been dealing with the city of Bellingham with regard to some of their infill processes, and I'm just bringing it to your attention because infill is part of what you guys are helping to promote in the cities. And I actually addressed the Planning Commission at its last meeting. I'd like you all to kind of take a look at that particular meeting. It's the opening of the detached accessory dwelling unit discussion that will be going on for quite a few months. And my house specifically has been impacted by codes that simply do not exist for some development that's happened next door. I've lost a major portion of my southern solar because of a two-story building that's been built kitty corner. The height and scale is really out of proportion to the lot, the adjoining lots that exists. My concern is that there are no codes that help protect the interests of directly adjoining lots with infill. And I'm asking especially you all that live in the city to please take a look at this and help create better codes, certainly create codes and good codes to prevent what's happened to me. I am, as far as I'm concerned, a prime example of something that has not worked well at all. And my husband and I have lived here for 10 years and we're devastated. So bulk and scale, height, siting and setback, and privacy. Those are the main keys that I'm asking you to take a look at to help us develop codes in the cities. Because when, as a county, you're asking the cities to absorb more population, I think that there's a sense of responsibility for all of us to work together to make this happen, where people that are already existing within community aren't being so heavily impacted that they're thinking of moving. Because part of this is we want to keep stable communities, right? And my husband and I are totally destabilized by this. We've made such an investment, my family and I, and it's too late now. So
30
I'm
seconds,
trying to,
please.
Thank you. I'm trying to help move this forward so better decisions and better opportunities exist, so people aren't going through what we've gone through. So anyway, so please take a look at that. And the other thing is, I don't know what's happened with Wendy Harris and her request to be put onto the other element of the wildlife board, but that is something
Time.
that, if it hasn't been looked at again, I'd like you to look at it. So she was a front runner in all of this process, and I think she deserves some consideration in that. Thank you, and have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Pat Allison, 4825 Alderson Road. I was here this afternoon, but I came back tonight because it was Pete's last night. And he's done wonderful things for us. I remember when Pete first ran for the state legislature, I remember my comment, "What, a radio announcer?" Well, he did a fantastic job. And Pete, you and I have a person in common, a ex-student of mine and an ex-page of yours. You did a fantastic job for her and her family. I want you to know that. And guess what? You've done a fantastic job for the whole county, and I owe you a lot of coffee.
And chocolates.
And chocolate.
I'll take you up on that, Pat. By the way, it wasn't radio announcer, it was broadcast journalist.
All right. Anybody else during the open session? See no one. I'm going to close the open session, and we're going to move on to our consent agenda from Finance and Administrative Services.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee met today and we considered items 1 through 21 on the consent agenda. These items were discussed and forwarded with a recommendation of approval with a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, so items number 1 through 21 have been moved. Ms. Brenner.
Was the thing about cancellation, was that a consent agenda? Cancellation of fines? Was that a consent?
No, that's number two under other items.
Under other.
All right. 21 items on the consent agenda. A couple of them are, we have some substitute pages for. Number 18, we have an orange substitute page. And I think that's the only one.
Yeah, the substitution in effect was that the word four-wheel drive was in fact supposed to be two-wheel drive. Other than that, the rest of it was the same.
Okay. Any discussion on any of the agenda consent items? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those pass unanimously. On to other items from finance.
Mr. Chair, all of the next 7 items received a recommendation of 3-0. Going through each of them. Resolution amending Resolution 214-067 in the matter of adopting a salary schedule and policies for unrepresented Whatcom County employees effective January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2016. As said, this was approved with a recommendation of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have that motion in front of us. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was resolution ordering the cancellation of accounts receivable for more than 1 year old. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have that motion in front of us. Ms. Brenner.
I can't support it, and while I appreciate what the information that came from the administration, it's the same information we've gotten every time we've done this, that it's a legitimate issue to look at why we're not putting liens on property. Some of these are in the tens of thousands. I mean, I'm not concerned about the little ones that are causing all the glitches on the computers of somebody, but some of them are huge, and I just can't, in good conscience, support it. And if we really can't do anything about it anyway, it's a joke that it comes to us. So,
Any other discussion? We have the motion in front of us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So that passes 5-2 with Councilmembers Brenner and Mann opposed.
Mr. Chair, the next item is an ordinance approving the authorizing the execution of a plan of conversion, articles of conversion, a certificate of formation, and a behavioural health organisation interlocal operating agreement in connection with the conversion of North Sound Mental Health Administration. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have this ordinance in front of us, and there's a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready for the roll call.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Pete Kremen,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes. That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending the 2015 Whatcom County budget, 13th request in the amount of $88,554, which received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have this ordinance amendment in front of us. It's been moved. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, we're ready for the roll call.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Pete Kremen,
Yes.
Ken Mann, Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes,
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
that passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item is an ordinance amending the 2016 Whatcom County budget, second request in the amount of $188,333. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have this ordinance amending the 2016 budget in front of us. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready for the roll call.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan, we'll try that again.
Yes.
Pete Kremen,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes,
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Rud Browne,
Yes.
that passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was a discussion and request for approval of project scope modifications for the Port of Bellingham's EDI-funded All-American Marine Expansion Project, and this relates to the EDI funding that we approved a couple of weeks ago. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have that motion in front of us. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item for which there was an extra page is to request an authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract amendment between Whatcom County and Environmental Science Associates, Inc. for environmental permitting modifications to project elements, surveying and design efforts for a fish passage structure in the amount of $109,434. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
All right, we have that motion in front of us. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, there is nothing else in finance.
All right, we're on to other items from Public Works, where it looks like we have 6 jail use agreements.
Number 8 is the request between Whatcom County and the City of Bellingham to extend the jail use agreement for 6 months through June 30th, 2016. This comes forward with a unanimous vote of the committee, and I move approval.
All right, so we have that motion on the jail use agreement with Bellingham in front of us. Questions? Mr. Mann.
I just wanted folks to know that there was some discussion in the media and then between the city and the county that transpired just to iron out some of the details of this agreement with Bellingham. And initially there was disagreement leading up to today, but in the last few days they've found a workable solution, and that's why we're able to move ahead with this tonight. And the mayor was here and she spoke in support of this, and the sheriff is in support of it. So we're going to make it work. And if any modifications need to be made, they're going to hammer those out, the details out in the next few weeks and months.
Ms. Brenner.
Well, actually, it was just that they got a misplaced email, and their communication didn't get through to each other. That was it. Once they talked and explained the email snafu, everything was fine.
All right, so we have the motion in front of us to approve this authorization. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
Number 9 is the same request between Whatcom County and the City of Blaine, and this was passed unanimously by Public Works Committee, and I move approval.
All right, so we have the motion to approve the jail use agreement between the county and Blaine. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Number 10, request between the Whatcom County and the City of Everson, and that passed unanimously, and I move approval.
All right, motion to approve the jail use agreement with the City of Everson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
Number 11 is the same agreement between Whatcom County and the City of Ferndale, and that passed unanimously in committee, and I move approval.
All right, the motion to authorize the contract between the City of Ferndale and the county for the jail use agreement. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Number 12 is the same request between Whatcom County and the City of Linden, and this came forward unanimously from committee, and I move approval.
All right, the motion for the jail use agreement between the City of Linden and the county. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Number 13 is request for the same agreement between Whatcom County and the City of Sumas, and this came forward with a unanimous approval in committee, and I move approval.
All right, and last but not least is the jail use agreement with the City of Sumas in the county. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. On to issues where there was no committee assignment. The first one is council to clarify action taken at the November 24th meeting related to the Weimer 1 planning unit. And I think there's a couple of things that we might want to clarify here. One was I think there was some questions about what our intent was for the $40,000 we set aside. Ms. Brenner.
Well, I don't know who didn't understand it. I mean, I not only made it clear, but I kept clarifying it because some people would seem like they're putting words in my mouth and saying what I didn't mean. My motion was to set aside $40,000 for use of the planning unit. When the money will be there, they have to provide specific requests to the Whatcom County Council before any money can be used. And that was my very specific set-aside motion. I don't know if I said it in those exact words, but that was my intent, and I said it a number of times. This is not committing us to fund anything with that $40,000. It's committing the planning unit to bring forward very specific requests, and we can vote yes or no depending on what those requests are. But if we don't have that money set aside, it doesn't matter. because the only other way to get it to us would be for the executive to make the recommendation. And since he didn't put it in the budget anyway, I'm not very convinced that he wants to bring something forward like that. And I think if we do, we need to do what we did.
Mr. Mann.
Ms. Brenner, I supported your effort on this. As I reread the minutes, there is some confusion in the discussion part. Like, I think your motion was pretty clear, but at one point you're asked if it's for outreach, and you kind of say, yeah, and then in another place later on, I'm just saying what the minutes say. Later on, you're asked if it's for outreach, and you say it's not for outreach.
I don't remember ever saying, I may have said it, but that in fact, I clarified when somebody kept saying for outreach, and I said it absolutely is not for outreach.
Okay, it's not for
It's
outreach.
set aside money, period, and we will make the decision when they bring specific requests forward as to whether we want to fund them or not.
Okay, so
period.
that's why there's confusion then. If they came to us with a request to use the money for outreach, would that be an allowable use of the set-aside funds?
Well, it would be if the majority voted for it,
yeah.
but they were very clear that the county can do mailings and things like that, and they were very specific, the administration, that they could do those things. And those were the main things that they wanted to be able to do, just to make sure some of the caucuses wanted to be sure that they could contact their people and be able to pay for it. And then staff said, we can do mailings. So for me, outreach is it's not something at this point I would support. If they, have a different proposal, I don't know. But I don't want any, on this set aside money, there is no specifics one way or the other. But at the time when I brought forward the motion, it was not for outreach. So I'd have to go reread, but I don't remember even saying it the first time. That I may have said that that's some of the things they want to do, but that's not what my motion was. Maybe that's where the confusion was.
You should reread the minutes.
I did. I did.
Well, and it doesn't really matter. I supported it because I thought we could set it aside and let them request it. And if we thought it was a valid request, whether it's for outreach or pencils or riprap, we could approve it or not. And
right.
Exactly.
That's how I saw it.
Okay.
All right, so I think is that clear that the council set aside the $40,000 waiting for a proposal back from the planning unit as a whole, I'm assuming, not individual caucuses?
Yes.
Yes, the planning unit as a whole.
Mr. Sidhu.
I just wanted to clarify that the request which came from planning unit was only for outreach, the $40,000. And that's what I said, that to clarify that their request is some additional money for staff support plus $40,000 for outreach. But the final motion we passed, as per my understanding, is that we are setting aside $40,000. That includes everything, including staff support or whatever. And outreach or whatever, they have to come up with a proposal and the council will approve it, but not individual caucuses.
No.
All right. I think we've been pretty clear. It has to be a proposal from the planning unit as a whole, not individual caucuses, and they can come ask us for how to spend the money however they wish.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think the second piece that some people were asking clarity is at that same day we had a discussion about creating another comprehensive water group.
Yeah.
And there was some discussion about whether I put out the idea that we should put that on hold until we get farther down the line here and find out where the planning unit is going to be, not only with this $40,000, but just responding to our resolution that we put out there, I think in February of last year, asking them to do certain things, which I don't think we've heard anything back from them yet. So there was some confusion about whether we are asking them for information on the idea of a new water advisory committee and whether we're going to do outreach to any of the other water committees asking what they think about that. And my recommendation was let's put that all on hold until we hear from the planning unit. Ms. Brenner.
I want to read my exact motion Brenner moved to set aside $40,000 from Public Works to augment planning unit efforts, and the use of the money must come to the council for approval. The money would be used for staff assistance, meeting minutes, and other related issues. And what I meant by staff assistance was not the regular assistance that is provided, but it would be like doing, if they need research work and stuff like that, this is the extra money for that, because regular staff assistance, the minutes, would be something that was supposed to be covered anyway. But any of these things are still going to come to the council. So I don't see where you're talking about. And I saw this outreach thing, and it didn't. Brenner stated the planning unit is not here to define what they mean by outreach. Set the money aside. So I said unless there's somewhere else
A little later on.
I think you had the votes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think we're good on the clarity of the $40,000. The question now is whether we just put a hold on the idea of the Comprehensive Water Advisory Committee, because I don't want to form another committee on top of the planning unit if the planning unit's going to be that group moving forward, and I think that was the wishes of the council. All right. So we're not moving forward on that. The last piece of clarity is we received this from Larry Helm today, which appears to be an invoice for about $9,000. And I'm a little confused with what we're supposed to do with this, because this isn't money that was in our budget to allocate. I think it's in Public Works' budget. And it's part of the confusion from the $10,000 we set aside for caucus support last year. I think they're asking for their part of the caucus support, but there never was developed a process for how this money got divvied up. This invoice was provided to Public Works at some point. I think it was discussed at the planning unit. And now it's landed on our desk, and I'd kind of like to figure out what it is we're supposed to do with it. So did the council get a chance to read this? Yes. Is it something we want to ask the administration to move forward in paying, or is it something we want to say, no, we needed a process before we get an invoice for $9,000? Ms. Brenner.
Well, I'm not comfortable with the invoice. The people who voted on this, one of the members is a member of the planning unit, and that just strikes me as kind of a conflict to have a bill paid to a member of the planning unit, since the member was instrumental in making putting together stuff. So I'm not, I mean, maybe we weren't clear enough with administration. I don't know what their I'm not comfortable with the request.
Mr. Browne.
Well, I share Ms. Brenner's concerns too, because this was not a contract that was let out to. We didn't invite bids and we didn't award a contract. So for someone to present us for an invoice for work that we didn't ask to be done in the first place is highly unusual, and particularly as it's a member of the planning unit that's asking for the money.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I don't know anything about this particular invoice, but I'd be more than happy to take it and find out whether or not that the planning unit and Public Works worked on the authorization of it, and whether we have the ability to actually pay it. I have to admit this is the first I've heard about it at this particular time, but I think that is a function of the administration to be able to figure that out, and if we need direction from the council, we'll come back to you at a later date to resolve the issue.
That sounds perfect to me. Mr. Kremen, did you have a comment?
Well, I just, I guess, I don't know, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not going to be able to revisit this issue in an official capacity, but just a suggestion, you may want to, because there is some red flag that has been raised by at least a couple of the members here of the council. You may want to run this by the state auditor, because these has the potential of a finding when someone who is a recipient of who actually votes for, and there's just a little, unless that, now I don't know if this individual actually abstained or actually voted for this, I don't know. But it's just something that you may want to do.
We'll take a look at that. I know that a little bit of an anecdotal story. It's somewhat fun that back in 1979, when my dad became a county executive, I was part of Laos construction at that particular time. Unbeknownst to us, we bid on a new septic system out on Lummi Island for the Lummi Island Ferry. Went out and installed it, going all the way to the state auditor. And my dad and I each split 50% of that bill and gave it to Whatcom County. So I do know
Wow.
a bit about the inadvertent situations that you can get into as it relates to the conflict of interest. We take that as a very well-received point of advice, and like I say, I know nothing about this particular transaction, but it is within my purview to do the research necessary to see what we can do with it.
All right, and I see that the caucus representative from the Non-Governmental Water System Caucus, who knows something about this, is here. Is it the wishes of the council to hear from him this evening, or to let the administration?
Sure.
Oh,
this topic?
we're curious. I'm curious.
assuming it is on this topic, because, all right. Inform us.
Thank you. Andy Ross, Non-Governmental Water Systems Caucus, and thank you for allowing me up here. It's not an invoice. It should be seen as a contract. There was an invoice submitted initially with the package when it was submitted to Gary Stoik in August. That invoice is not part of this package because it doesn't fit with, you can't submit an invoice before the contract is approved. So the planning unit has had numerous discussions about how to restart the caucus support funding process that was in place from 1999 to 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere in that. And it took a lot of, going back and forth between our caucus, Gary Stoika, the council clerk's office, the executive's office, and we put together what the system used to be. And this application, which is basically a contract, I didn't think I was going to be talking about this tonight, so pardon my pausing. The application you have before you is basically the Non-Government Water Systems Caucus application to produce a contract with the county. You can review that, you can say yes or no, you can come back with questions or comments, approve it or not. Once it's approved as a contract, we have the scope of work, we have the budget, we bill against that through the county executive's office. We're still refiguring this out. So I would not call this an invoice at this time.
It said contract on it.
Yeah. And I'm new to this game. Game's not the right word. Skip is no longer I am now sitting as the standing representative for the Non-Governmental Water Systems Caucus, and the way I view this personally is that Skip provides the ability to go through the reports, go through the record. He has tremendous historical knowledge of the project, and he can go through the paperwork and give us the bullet points, and then we can work with that. So I'd be happy to work with the executive's office on this, but the biggest point is that is not an invoice. It's basically the beginning of a contract negotiation with the county under the system that was put in place 15 years ago that we're bringing back to life, and maybe we haven't nailed it.
All right, that makes more sense, that this is the start of a process that could have led to funding for a caucus.
Exactly.
And I think as we clarified our intent for the $40,000 for next year, we need some kind of a process like that for this, that the planning unit brings us versus us individual caucus. Thank you. All right, moving right along. County Executive requests confirmation of his appointment of Tyler Schroeder to the position of Deputy Executive effective January 4, 2016.
Sorry, I was...
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And do we want to ask him to do the dissertation now on his thoughts on Donald Trump for president or something?
Oh, jeez.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Schroeder over the last 4 years, first in Planning and Development Services and for about the last year and a half in the Executive's office as a project manager. I believe that he's one of the many qualified and great employees we have in Whatcom County. I think that he has the respect of his fellow employees, and I'm pleased by the enthusiasm that I heard through the motion and the support for the motion, that he also has the respect of the council. I'm looking forward to working with him and with you over the next 4 years as we continue to work the business of Whatcom County. And I think that he is going to do a fine job, and I would appreciate your affirmative vote on this appointment.
All right, Ms. Brenner.
I thought we already did this. Okay.
Just keep thinking that and vote yes.
I'm going to vote yes. I thought
We created the position, but we didn't appoint.
we
didn't
created
confirm
the
it.
position with that we knew that Tyler was going to be.
All right. Any other discussion of appointing Tyler Schroeder?
And it's not in.
Mr. Sidhu.
I think I just want to bring up the point last time we talked about that Mr. Schroeder is moving into a political appointee place rather than being an employee. Jack clarified that last time, so that for the records.
Well, I'd say that he still is acting as an employee of Whatcom County,
Of course.
but moving from planning and development services into the executive's office has more political implications for Mr. Schroeder than it would be as the director of one of our departments, because as the deputy director, and along with all of the other elected offices, is when you have a new executive, which at some point down the road there will be a new executive. I mean, even Executive Kremen after 16 years doing a good job. It comes with reward, but it also comes with the understanding that you may or may not move forward with a new administration, depending on how things go. But Mr. Schroeder has the skill set to be able to navigate that well in a very professional manner. I'm convinced of that, and it's one of the many reasons why I want him working alongside me for the next 4 years.
Maybe he can run for the position too.
That's what I was going to say. You're next.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
So we have a motion and a second to confirm Tyler Schroeder as the deputy executive. Any other discussion? Ms. Brenner.
Was this in our packet?
Yes.
Where?
Number
Page 5.
number 15 on page 9.
Page
An
596.
appointment. Oh, confirmation. No wonder I was looking at the appointments. Okay, you're there.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Or condolences, I'm not sure.
I was going to ask him how he feels about term limits for the executive. But
Okay, next is the approval of the 2016 Health Board and Surface Water Work Session meeting dates.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I figured. Ms. Brenner.
Actually, no. I'm going to support this because it's not regular council meetings, and I consider this different because these are special meetings. So for the here's a first. I'm going to actually support it.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, if I could just come back to item 13 on the list, well, actually items 7 through 13. We've maybe the executive can answer this because Sheriff Olfo isn't here.
Go back to.
We have these agreements with the small cities, but I don't see anything extending the agreement with Alumni, who's also a user of the jail.
Oh, right.
The sheriff and I were out at Lummi Nation on Monday talking with them, but we have never had a formal agreement with the Lummi Nation. Whatcom County did propose an agreement with the Lummies in 2005 with the rest of the cities, and they never consummated the agreement by authorizing signature on it. So we've been providing jail space, and they've been paying the bill on a monthly basis, and we've been charging them exactly the same as we have the other jurisdictions. The discussion that we had on Monday is that over the next 6 months, we need them to work as if they're part of the agreement, but we did indicate that we did want to have them to be part of any future agreements that we have. So that's why the LUMI was not included in this.
And then is there a similar arrangement or lack of one with the Nooksack as well?
The Nooksacks, we haven't been able to get into contact with them yet, but we're going to plan on treating them as we are the Lummies and as we have them in the past also for the next few months.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Brenner.
I forget, maybe it was the sheriff or somebody. Somebody had spoken to the interaction with the Lummies, and I thought they also had another option they might be considering.
They do have options. Not only do they have the option of Yakima or South County SCORE, but there are two native correctional facilities in the state that they have the opportunity to pursue. But I do believe at this time we are working productively with them, and we are keeping them in the loop.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. All right, our next council appointment is the nomination and appointment to fill a vacancy on the Whatcom County Planning Commission, District 2. We ended up with 4 applicants, and I'll probably mess up your names, and I apologize before. Stephen Jordan, Andrew Rolson, Virginia Malmquist, and Atul Deshmain. I guess one question I have is we have another vacancy in District 2 that will be up as of the end of this year. So whether we want to do these appointments this evening or roll it over and do both appointments after we find out whether the current member is reapplying or not. Makes real no difference to me. If we do it now, this person could probably get appointed and be ready for the January meeting. If we wait till January, they might miss one more January Planning Commission meeting.
Let's appoint someone now.
Okay, Ms. Brenner.
I'm not comfortable appointing a second person. I think it's a little disrespectful to whoever is serving and might want to do it again.
I didn't say we'll appoint a second person. I said we would hold off doing any appointments until January and do
then
both of them in January.
Well, I'm fine with that, but didn't you just say do it now?
I want to vote for the one.
Oh, okay, for the one. Sorry.
All right. So on that note, as a District 2 council member, I'll move a nomination of all 4 applicants.
Okay. So all 4 have been moved. Is there a
Second.
And seconded. All right. I guess we'll just, do you want to call the roll and everybody gets to vote for one person?
Carl Weimer,
Andrew Rolson.
Rud Browne,
Rolson.
Ken Mann,
Atul Deshmain.
Satpal Sidhu,
Atul Deshmani.
Barbara Brenner,
Stephen Jordan.
Pete Kremen,
Rolson.
Barry Buchanan,
Andy Rolson.
So it appears that Mr. Rolson has been appointed to the Planning Commission. Congratulations. Or condolences. You'll find out. We appreciate your time, and we hope that these other 3 people will keep their names in because there is going to be another opening in District 2 as of January. So we hope we can call on these people to apply again. And I think the existing planning commissioner is up for reappointment if he so desires. Mr. Browne.
And just while we have the opportunity, I just wanted to thank the other 3 candidates for applying. I looked at all 4 resumes, and I was quite impressed with all 4 of them. And if there's a vacancy next year, encourage them to apply just as you've done. And if there isn't a vacancy, I encourage them to apply for other positions.
All right. Next is the appointment of Greg Winter, the incoming Opportunity Council Executive Director, to serve the remainder of the current Director, Dave Finay's term on the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force.
Move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Any other reports from committees? Natural Resources.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, we had 2 items for information only this morning. We had a discussion regarding the Weimer 1 Joint Board Salmon Recovery Board Interlocal Agreement, and it was very apparent there needs to be a lot more discussion on that before we take any action next year. The other one was discussion with long-range planning staff and the county's consultant from Foster Pepper regarding Whatcom County's agricultural development rights auction, and we had an exhaustive discussion about that. And very good presentation, a lot of information exchanged, and a lot of good discussion. But these items were, again, for information only.
Mr. Mann.
We also had some robust discussion in the planning committee. Number one was about tweaking our code a little bit regarding marijuana production and processing regulations, and we just want to align them a little more exactly with the state guidelines and law, and that will probably be going to the planning commission in sometime in the spring. We gave staff guidance with the options to present to the planning commission, and they'll have a public hearing, make a recommendation, then we'll have our own public hearing. And the other discussion was about vacation rental by owner units, which are proliferating throughout the county and for some people causing a real problem. And we're trying to figure out the best way to manage that or not manage it, or regulate it or not regulate it. And it's been a very good discussion, and we decided to keep the discussion going in planning committee in January, and that'll be on our agenda at our next planning committee. So that's my report.
All right. Public Works.
We had an update from Public Works Director John Hutchings. It was about the biggest part was about the potential closure of Valley View Road because the railroad wants it closed and claims they got reasons, and this did not come to the county council. It was in the council chambers. It was a state issue with the Washington State Utilities and Transportation Commission, and I'm not real pleased with the fact that we weren't really notified about it, and people misunderstood what was going on. I'm hopeful but not optimistic as what this is going to be. The county has taken a position opposing that closure. So hopefully we will continue the fight even if the Utilities and Transportation Commission approves it. That's just me saying that. We had a presentation regarding a proposed Chuckanut Mountain Trail project. It was a very interesting presentation, and we heard from people who were interested and from our park staff. And if people want to get more information, I think they should contact Mike McFarland because he's for parks. I mean, I didn't know anything really about it except what was proposed. So that's another thing. This was number 3, presentation regarding a proposal to construct a lighthouse at Lighthouse Marine Park in Point Roberts. We had a wonderful discussion. There were a bunch of Point Roberts people who came to our meeting from Point Roberts, and they had to wait for some of the other things, and they were just so wonderful. Their presentation was very enthusiastic, and we got a unanimous, actually every council member was at the meeting too. We got unanimous support from the council to do a resolution. That was that resolution. Do you remember the wording? A resolution supporting the concept and trying to work through this. And the best part about it was this couple who has property in Point Roberts donated $500,000 to get this going. I mean, we just don't get money like that very often. So we need to make it work. I move that Whatcom County Council, through resolution, support the concept and working through the issues so we can get this done. And a little side issue of thank you to the, what's their name? Sutton? I think it was Sutton. Yeah, to the Suttons for donating that money. I mean, it's just amazing.
Second.
All right, so that was a motion that we're going to draft a future resolution to do those things?
Well, I guess it's not a resolution tonight. A motion to draft the resolution, which can be worded a lot neater than what I just said.
Mr. Chair, I think actually the original motion was just a vote of approval and acknowledgement of appreciation for their offer, so we get it in the minutes.
Well, that was in there, and however it was in the minutes, that's my motion. How's that?
But are you requesting staff actually work on this project, or are you just saying thank you to the Suttons?
No, I'm saying the council is very supportive of the project.
Okay.
But thank you to the Suttons, too.
But I thought what we said this afternoon was we were enthusiastic for the project and we wanted to find a way to move it forward.
Yes.
That was one motion. The other motion was to do the resolution.
I know, I just put
It was
it
two
together.
separate motions, but
But I just put it together. What do you want to do? You want to do them separately? We can do them separately.
No, I want to know who's writing them. That's what I want to know. If we're
we should.
drafting future
You.
No, I'm not.
Your chair. Oh.
I'm not chair after tonight, so.
How about?
How about Jill writing
Jill,
a
you do
resolution,
such
taking
a
a
good
stab at it, and
job.
running it by you?
Yeah, and you know what? We can. What?
Does Forrest want to tackle that one?
Forrest. Yes. Our policy analyst. Well, that's not my decision.
Right, so a resolution offering the county council's support and desire for this
Tired.
project to move forward and thanking the Suttons for their donation.
Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Well,
All right, so it's been moved and seconded.
yes.
Any other discussion on that idea? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously, and it looks like we just gave you something else to do. All right.